Ethan had been living alone for a while now. He worked long hours, and the last thing he wanted to do when he got home was clean. His apartment was a mess, and he was tired of doing everything himself. One day, he decided to do something about it. He had read about a new robot maid service online, and the idea seemed perfect. No more scrubbing floors or dusting shelves, just press a button, and everything would be clean. Ethan quickly ordered the robot maid. The website promised it would be the latest technology, a fully programmed robot designed to make life easier. He paid for the premium service, hoping the robot would be efficient. As he clicked the final confirmation, he thought, finally, some peace and quiet. No more chores. The next day, Ethan waited at home all morning. He kept checking his watch, hoping the robot maid would arrive soon. At around noon, there was a knock on the door. He jumped up from his couch, excited to finally meet his new helper. When he opened the door, however, there was no robot in sight. Instead, standing in front of him was a young woman. She had pale skin, long silver hair, and eyes that seemed too big for her face. She wore a strange, flowing outfit that looked nothing like a maid's uniform. Ethan blinked, confused. Was this some kind of mistake? "Hello," the woman said in a soft, almost musical voice. "I'm Zara. I'm here to help with the housework." Ethan stood there for a moment, unsure of what to say. I think there's been a mistake. I ordered a robot maid, not a person." Zara smiled, but there was something different about her smile. It didn't seem entirely human. "I am here to help, just like the robot maid. My mission is to assist with cleaning and organizing. I was sent by the program." Ethan blinked again. "Wait, sent by the program? But you're not a robot." Zara's expression grew more serious. "No, I'm not a robot. I'm something else entirely." Ethan felt a strange unease in his chest. He wanted to slam the door shut, but something about her made him pause. Her eyes were bright, almost glowing, and there was an otherworldly calm about her. He looked around, wondering if this was some sort of prank or a mistake. "You're not from around here, are you?" Ethan asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Zara tilted her head slightly, almost as if she was confused by the question. "I am from far away. I am here to observe and learn. I will help you with the housework as requested." Ethan didn't know what to think. He had never believed in aliens or anything like that, but standing in front of him was a woman who was definitely not a robot. There was something about her that seemed too perfect, too unusual. The way she stood, the way she spoke, and the way her eyes looked at him, it all felt strange. But he couldn't deny that she didn't seem harmful. Still, he had to ask, "Are you dangerous?" He asked, his voice a little shaky. Zara's eyes softened, and she took a step back. "No, I am not dangerous. I only wish to help. I will not cause harm." Ethan wasn't sure whether to believe her, but there was no immediate threat, so he decided to let her stay for now. He had no idea what was going on, but this was certainly the strangest thing that had happened to him in a long time. If she wasn't a robot and she wasn't dangerous, then maybe she could help around the house. It would be awkward, but at least his apartment would be clean. "All right," Ethan said, stepping aside. "Come in, I guess. But no funny business, okay?" Zara nodded politely and stepped into the apartment. She looked around with interest, her eyes scanning the cluttered space. She didn't seem fazed by the mess, and Ethan noticed that she didn't seem to care about any of the usual human discomforts. Most people would be uncomfortable in such a messy place, but not her. "I'll start with the kitchen," she said, walking toward the counter without waiting for a response. "Please, make yourself comfortable." Ethan watched her as she moved around his apartment. There was a fluidity to her movements, almost as if she was floating rather than walking. She seemed to know exactly where everything was, as if she had already learned the layout of his home. He sat down on the couch, still unsure about what was happening. Was she an alien? Was she a human pretending to be an alien? There were so many questions swirling in his head, and he didn't know which one to ask first. As Zara began to clean, Ethan decided to sit back and watch. whatever was going on. It seemed like it was about to get a lot more interesting than he had expected. As he sat there, trying to process everything, he couldn't help but wonder, who sent her here? And more importantly, why her? Ethan spent the next hour watching Zara clean his apartment. She moved swiftly, almost as if she had been doing this for years. She wiped down counters, organized bookshelves, and swept the floor with such precision that it made Ethan feel like he was witnessing some kind of magic. But there was nothing magical about her movements, just an eerie efficiency. He tried to make small talk, hoping to understand more about her and how she ended up in his apartment. So, Zara, how did you get into this program? I didn't order a human. I thought robots were supposed to do this kind of work. Zara paused for a moment, her head tilting slightly as if she was processing the question. I am part of a larger initiative to learn more about Earth. The program I belong to involves observing human behavior up close. I was sent here to integrate into your society and assist in daily life. Ethan raised an eyebrow. So you're like a secret agent or something? Zara looked at him curiously. I would not call it that. My mission is to gather information, yes, but I'm not here to harm anyone or interfere. I'm just here to observe. Her answer only raised more questions. Ethan wasn't sure whether to believe her, but he didn't feel any danger coming from her. She was odd, certainly, but not threatening. She seemed genuinely interested in learning about his world, even though she still didn't seem quite human. So, what's it like where you're from? Ethan asked, trying to shift the conversation. You know, your planet or wherever you're from. Zara hesitated for a moment, looking around the apartment as though choosing her words carefully. My world is very different from yours. It is vast and filled with many civilizations, not just humans. We don't live in cities like yours. We live in harmony with nature. Technology is more advanced, but we don't depend on it as much as humans do. Ethan couldn't help but feel intrigued. He had always dreamed of space and other worlds, but hearing about them from Zara made everything feel real. That sounds amazing. So, you guys are like super advanced, right? If you can travel between planets and all. Zara smiled, a hint of pride in her eyes. Yes, but it's not just about technology. It's about balance and understanding. Our people have learned how to coexist with the universe in ways that Earthlings are still discovering. Ethan leaned back, his mind racing with the possibilities. What was she really here for? What did she mean by balance? Do you ever miss your planet? Ethan asked softly. Zara's expression softened, and she looked away for a moment. Sometimes. But I have a purpose here, and I must focus on that. The way she said it made Ethan feel like she was hiding something important. She wasn't just here to clean, was she? There had to be more to this mission than she was letting on. Ethan didn't press her any further. Instead, he decided to see what would happen if he just let her be. After all, she was cleaning his apartment, better than he could ever manage. Maybe there was no harm in letting her stay for a while. But as the afternoon went on, he began to notice things he hadn't seen before. Zara wasn't just cleaning. She was organizing in a way that made everything feel different. The kitchen was spotless, but more than that, it felt renewed. The living room, once cluttered with old papers and unused furniture, now looked inviting and calm. There was a new energy in the apartment, one that Ethan couldn't explain. You're really good at this, Ethan said, still watching from the couch. Better than any robot I've seen in movies. Zara smiled again, her eyes glowing. Softly, thank you. It's part of my purpose, to blend in and understand how humans live. Ethan didn't know whether to feel flattered or uneasy. He had a feeling that Zara wasn't just here to clean. She was learning about him, studying his life in ways he couldn't fully understand. And maybe, just maybe, she was also learning something about herself. As the evening approached, Zara finished up the last of her work. She stood in the middle of the apartment, hands resting at her sides, looking satisfied. I have completed my task for today. Ethan sat up, finally breaking the silence. So, what happens now? Zara's gaze softened, and for a brief moment, Ethan saw something more than the calm distant alien persona she had been showing. He saw a glimpse of someone who was curious, someone who was maybe even a little lost. Now, I wait. Tomorrow, I will continue my mission. But for tonight, I will stay here. Ethan nodded slowly. I guess you can stay as long as you want. Just, let me know if you need anything. I'll be in the kitchen if you want to talk more. Zara smiled, her eyes reflecting a gentle warmth. Thank you, Ethan. I appreciate your kindness. As she walked to the window, staring out into the fading light, Ethan couldn't help but wonder what tomorrow would bring. Would Zara continue to be just a mysterious housekeeper, or was she something far more extraordinary than he could ever imagine? The next few days were a strange mix of ordinary and extraordinary. Ethan had gotten used to Zara's presence in his apartment. She was always there when he came home, quietly working, cleaning, and even helping with small tasks like making dinner. It was as if she had always been a part of his routine. But there was something off about it all, something that nagged at the back of his mind. Zara, however, seemed content. She never seemed to get tired, never took breaks. And her work was always flawless. It was hard to believe that a human could do all that without ever stopping. But then again, Zara wasn't human. Ethan had learned a lot about her in the past few days. But there were still so many things he didn't understand. Every time he asked her about where she was from or why she was here, her answers were vague. She would talk about her mission, but she never gave him any details. It was like there was an invisible wall between them, one she wasn't ready to let him pass. One evening, as they sat down to dinner, Ethan decided to push a little further. Zara, you keep saying you're here to observe humans, but what does that mean exactly? Are you just studying me, or is there more to it? Zara placed her fork down gently, her eyes locking onto his. I am here to learn, to understand how humans interact with each other, how you live, how you think. I study your behaviors, your habits, your emotions. It is all part of my mission. Ethan looked at her, trying to read her expression. So, you're like a scientist or something, but why stay with me? Why not just observe from a distance? Zara didn't answer right away. She seemed to be weighing her words carefully. Humans are complex, she said slowly. You are unpredictable. It is not enough to observe from afar. I must learn through experience. Ethan felt a small sense of unease. Experience? You mean by living with me? She nodded. Yes. By living with you, I can understand more. I can see how you deal with daily life, how you form relationships, how you face challenges. Ethan leaned back in his chair, still unsure how to process all of this. So, this is some sort of study. I'm part of an experiment. Zara looked at him with a calm, almost sad expression. It is not an experiment, Ethan. It is an understanding. My mission is not to harm, but to learn, to help. Help? How? Ethan asked, more confused than ever. Zara's eyes softened. By understanding you, I can help. I can help you with the things you don't even realize you need help with. Ethan couldn't help but wonder what she meant. Was she trying to improve his life in some way? Or was this just another way for her people to learn more about humans? He wanted to believe her, but it was hard to ignore the nagging feeling that there was something bigger going on here. After dinner, they sat together on the couch. Ethan, still thinking about their conversation, watched Zara as she quietly stared out the window. Her face was peaceful, but there was something almost otherworldly about her. She didn't seem entirely human, even though she looked human enough. And it wasn't just her appearance, it was the way she behaved. She was so calm, so collected. And yet there was a quiet sadness in her eyes that made Ethan wonder if she was hiding something. He couldn't deny that there was a growing connection between them. He had never been good at making friends, and even less so at trusting people. But with Zara, he felt like he could talk about anything. She didn't judge him, didn't ask questions about his past. She simply listened, and in a way that made her different from anyone he had ever met. But he couldn't ignore the fact that she was still hiding something. He had to know the truth. And if Zara wasn't going to tell him, then he'd have to figure it out himself. The next day, he decided to ask her once more. Zara, I need to know more. You're not just a maid, are you? You're not just here to clean and observe. There's more to your mission, and I need to understand it." Zara stood up and walked to the window, her back to him. For a long moment, she didn't speak, and Ethan began to think that maybe she wasn't going to answer him at all. But then, she turned around, her expression serious. "You are right, Ethan," she said quietly. "I am not just here to observe. I have been sent to Earth for a much larger purpose. But that purpose is not something I can share with you yet. All I can say is that it is important, and it involves more than just you." Ethan's heart raced. What was she talking about? He had known all along that there was something more going on, but this was the first time she had admitted it. There was a mission, a bigger picture, and somehow he was a part of it. "Then what do you need from me?" Ethan asked, his voice steady despite the storm of thoughts running through his mind. Zara stepped closer, her eyes locking onto his. "I need you to trust me, Ethan, and I need you to understand that. Even though I am different, I am here to help. I want to learn about you, about your world. I want to understand what makes humans human." Ethan looked at her, his mind still racing. He didn't know if he could trust her completely, but he did know one thing: he couldn't let this mystery go. Whatever Zara was hiding, whatever her mission truly was, he was now a part of it, and he wasn't sure where it would take him. The next few days passed in a blur for Ethan. Zara was a constant presence in his life now, and with each day, he grew more accustomed to her strange yet gentle ways. She was always there when he came, homeworking, cleaning, cooking, and asking him questions about Earth. But despite her calm and helpful nature, something still felt off. Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that Zara was hiding something from him. She spoke of her mission often, but the details were vague, always circling around the same ideas: observation, understanding, helping. She would always change the subject when he asked her too many questions, and while she was kind and attentive, there were moments when her eyes would drift, almost as if she was seeing something that wasn't there. It left Ethan with more questions than answers. One evening, after Zara had finished dinner and they were sitting together on the couch, Ethan decided to push a little harder. He had to know what was really going on. "Zara," Ethan said, his voice gentle, "I need to understand. You say you're here to learn about humans, but there's more to it, right? What's your real mission? Why are you really here?" Zara looked at him, her eyes soft but distant. She always looked at him that way, like she was looking through him, as if there was something far beyond what he could see. For a moment, she said nothing, her gaze fixed on the wall ahead. Then, slowly, she turned to him. "I have been sent here to gather information," she said quietly. "But it's not just about you, Ethan. It's about Earth. Your planet is different. It is at a crossroads, and my people are studying it to determine its future." Ethan blinked, his heart racing. "What do you mean? Are you saying Earth isn't danger?" Zara's expression darkened. "I cannot say for certain, but there are forces at work here, forces that could either save or destroy your world. My mission is to understand how humans will respond, how you will handle the challenges." Ahead, Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. "And that's why you're here, to see how we react, to study us?" Zara nodded slowly, her voice soft. "Yes, but it's more than just observation. The future of Earth depends on how you and others like you choose to act. Your choices will determine everything." Ethan swallowed hard, trying to make sense of her words. He had always known that Earth had problems: climate change, wars, inequality, but he hadn't realized that someone, or something, was watching all of it so closely. "So, you're not just here to clean. You're here to study how humans live, how we will survive." "That's part of it," Zara said. "But it's also about understanding what makes you human. The way you love, the way you fight, the way you connect with each other. You are unlike any other species I've encountered. There is strength in your weakness, power in your kindness. It is something my people don't fully understand yet." Ethan was silent for a moment, processing what she had said. It was a lot to take in. He had thought she was just a strange maid who had shown up by mistake. But now, He was starting to understand that there was more to her than he had realized. She was a part of something much larger, something that had to do with the future of his planet. "But why me?" Ethan asked, his voice tinged with confusion. "Why did you choose me to observe? I'm not special. I'm just an average guy." Zara looked at him with something like sadness in her eyes. "You're not just an average guy, Ethan. You are someone who is facing the same choices that millions of others will face. Your life, your decisions, are a reflection of what many will choose when the time comes. That is why I am here." Ethan felt a strange mix of emotions: fear, confusion, but also a sense of responsibility. He had never thought of himself as someone who would be part of something so important. He was just trying to live his life, trying to make it through each day. But now, everything felt different. "I don't know if I can handle all of that," Ethan said quietly, his voice almost a whisper. "I don't know if I'm ready for something so big." Zara leaned forward, her expression soft and understanding. "No one is ever ready for something like this, Ethan. But you have the strength within you. You have the ability to make the right choices when the time comes. It's not about being perfect. It's about learning, growing, and making decisions with your heart." Ethan looked at her, his mind swirling with the weight of her word. He wasn't sure if he believed everything she was saying, but he couldn't deny the sincerity in her eyes. She was asking him to trust her, to believe that there was something more to his life than he could see. It was a lot to ask, and he wasn't sure if he was ready to accept it. But then again, when had he ever been ready for anything in his life? As the evening wore on, Ethan couldn't stop thinking about Zara's words. She had come into his life under the strangest circumstances, but now, it seemed like she was trying to tell him something important, something that could change everything. He wasn't sure if he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. But one thing was clear: Zara wasn't just some alien maid sent to clean his apartment. She was a part of something much bigger. And whether he liked it or not, he was now involved in whatever came next. Ethan woke up the next morning feeling strange. Zara's words from the night before echoed in his mind, and for the first time, he couldn't stop thinking about them. She had said that Earth's future depended on the choices humans would make, that somehow his life and decisions were part of something bigger. He didn't know whether to believe her, but the more he thought about it, the more it made sense. After all, he had never imagined that his life could be so significant. He got up and went about his usual morning routine, but everything felt different. Zara had left for the day, as she usually did, to take care of some errands. Ethan tried to focus on his work, but his mind kept drifting back to her. What did she really know about him, about the future? What kind of mission was she really on? And more importantly, what role did he play in all of this? Later that afternoon, Zara returned to the apartment, and Ethan could see that something was different. She seemed quieter, more distant, and there was a look of worry in her eyes that he had never noticed before. "Hey, is everything okay?" Ethan asked as she entered. Zara paused for a moment, then gave him a soft smile. "Everything is fine, Ethan. Don't worry." But Ethan wasn't convinced. He could tell something was on her mind. "Are you sure? You seem different today." Zara hesitated again. "I received new instructions," she said slowly. "My superiors are pushing for a faster resolution. They want more data, more understanding. They think humans need more time to adjust to what is coming. They are concerned." Ethan frowned. "Concerned about what?" Zara looked at him, her eyes filled with something that almost looked like fear. "I cannot tell you everything, but I will tell you this. There are forces at work here on Earth that are beyond anyone's control. Forces that may not be as forgiving as my people." Ethan felt a cold shiver run down his spine. "What do you mean by that? What forces? What are you talking about, Zara?" Zara's eyes darkened, and she stepped closer to him. "There are powers on this planet, both human and alien, that are waiting for the right moment to strike. They see humanity as either a threat or an opportunity. My mission is to understand what path humanity will choose. But I am not sure if I can influence what happens next." Ethan's heart pounded in his chest. This was more than he had ever expected. You're telling me that Earth is in danger and that your mission is to figure out which path we'll take? Zara nodded solemnly. Yes, but it is more complicated than that. The choices humans make in the coming months will determine the fate of this world. And I fear that the wrong choice could lead to destruction. Ethan felt a wave of confusion and fear. But how can we even know what the right choice is? How can anyone know what to do? Zara looked at him, her expression softening. That is the challenge. No one knows. The right choice is not always clear. But I believe that you, Ethan, will play a part in it. You may not see it now, but your actions will have consequences. Ethan stood up and began pacing the room. He had never thought of himself as someone important, someone who could influence the future of an entire planet. He was just a regular guy trying to live a quiet life. But now, everything felt different. How could he possibly make a difference in a situation as huge as this? Why me? He asked, his voice filled with frustration. Why am I involved in this? I'm nobody. Zara stepped closer, her eyes filled with a deep, steady calm. You may feel like nobody, Ethan, but the decisions you make matter. It's not always the loudest voices or the most powerful people who change the world. Sometimes it's the quiet ones, the ones who take a stand when it matters. I believe that you have the strength to do what is right when the time comes. Ethan felt a weight settle in his chest. Zara believed in him, but he wasn't sure if he could believe in himself. He had never been the kind of person who made big decisions or took risks. He had always played it safe, tried to avoid conflict. But now, it felt like his entire world was about to change. I don't know if I'm ready for all this, Ethan admitted, his voice soft. What if I make the wrong choice? Zara reached out and placed a hand on his arm. That is the risk. Ethan, there is no way to know for sure. But you have something that others don't, a heart that listens, a mind that questions. That's what will help you choose the right path. Ethan looked at her, still unsure. And if I fail? Zara shook her head. You will not fail. Not if you stay true to yourself. But the journey will not be easy. And it is not just about you. It is about everyone. Humanity's future rests in the choices you make. But it will require more than one person to change the course of history. Ethan took a deep breath and nodded slowly. He didn't know if he was ready. But Zara was right. This wasn't just about him. It was about everyone. And whatever was coming, he had to face it, okay? He said finally, I'll do what I can. But you have to promise me something, Zara. What is it? She asked. That you'll be honest with me. That you'll tell me everything, even if it's hard to hear. Zara gave him a small, reassuring smile. I promise, Ethan. I will always be honest with you. For the first time since Zara had arrived in his life, Ethan felt a sense of determination. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew he couldn't back away now. Whatever was coming, he had to face it head on. The days that followed were filled with a mix of uncertainty and curiosity. Ethan couldn't stop thinking about what Zara had told him. Earth was at a crossroads, and the future of the planet depended on the choices that humans would make. He had never thought of himself as someone who could change the world, but now it felt like the weight of the future was somehow resting on his shoulders. Zara had become more than just a housekeeper. To him, she was a mystery and alien from another world, sent to observe and understand human behavior. But with each passing day, he realized that there was so much more to her than what she had initially shared. She was deeply connected to the mission, and yet there were moments when he saw the humanity in her. She was learning from him, yes, but she was also starting to care about him, just as he was beginning to care about her. One evening, as they sat together, Ethan noticed that Zara seemed distant, more so than usual. She hadn't said much during dinner, and now, as they relaxed on the couch, she kept glancing out the window, lost in thought. Zara, is everything okay? Ethan asked, his voice gentle. She looked at him, her eyes filled with an unfamiliar sadness. I am concerned. Ethan, the instructions I received are becoming more urgent. My superiors are pushing for faster results. They want answers, but I am beginning to question whether we are moving in the right direction." Ethan leaned forward, his interest piqued. "What do you mean? You've been helping me, and I've been trying to make sense of everything, but you've never really told me what's happening on your end." Zara sighed and looked down at her hands. "The mission was never just about observation. I was sent here to guide humanity in a way to help you understand the choices you face. But there is something I did not anticipate. The more I learn about humans, the more I realize that you are capable of great things, but you are also capable of destroying each other." Ethan's heart sank. "You think we're doomed?" "No," she said quickly. "I don't think you're doomed. But I am beginning to see that the path ahead is not clear. There are forces on Earth that are working against you. There are those who would use your weaknesses, your fear, to manipulate and control." Ethan frowned. "And you're here to stop that, to make sure we don't fall into the wrong hands?" Zara nodded. "That is part of it, but there is another problem. The more I observe, the more I realize that I am becoming attached to you, to your world. And that complicates everything. My mission was never to become involved with humans, but I feel connected to you, Ethan, and that connection is making it hard for me to do my job." Ethan was taken aback by her honesty. He had known there was something between them, something that went beyond the simple exchange of cleaning and observation. But hearing Zara admit it made everything feel more real, more complicated. "I don't want to make this harder for you," Ethan said softly, "but I'm starting to feel the same way. You're not just some alien from another planet. You're more than that, and I don't want you to leave." Zara looked at him, her expression unreadable. "I don't know what the right choice is anymore. I am torn between my mission and my feelings for you. If I stay, I am breaking the rules. If I leave, I am abandoning everything I've learned." Here, Ethan reached out, placing a hand on hers. "You don't have to decide right now. We'll figure this out together. But you don't have to hide your feelings. I want you to be honest with me, just like I'm trying to be with you." Zara squeezed his hand gently, and for the first time in days, she smiled a small, but real smile. "Thank you, Ethan. That means more than you know." The room was silent for a moment as both of them sat there, lost in their thoughts. Ethan couldn't help but feel like their lives had changed in ways they couldn't fully understand. There was so much about Zara's mission that still remained a mystery. But one thing was certain: he couldn't go back to his old life. Not now. Not after everything he had learned. Zara stood up, walking over to the window once again. "There is something else you need to know, Ethan. Something I have been avoiding." Ethan stood up too, moving to stand beside her. "What is it?" Zara turned to him, her eyes filled with determination. "I am not the only one watching you. There are others who are not as kind. They will try to influence your choices, to use you. They will manipulate you, just like they have done with others." Ethan felt a surge of fear, but he didn't back down. "What should we do?" Zara took a deep breath. "We must be prepared. We must be ready for whatever is coming. You cannot face this alone, Ethan. You will need allies, people who believe in you and in what's right." Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of her words. He had no idea what was coming, but he knew one thing for sure: he wasn't going to back down. He couldn't, not with Zara by his side. "Then let's figure this out," Ethan said, his voice steady. Together, Zara smiled again, this time with a sense of hope in her eyes. Together, as they stood there, side by side, staring out at the night sky, Ethan knew that their journey was just beginning. There were dangers ahead, and the choices they would make in the coming days would determine the fate of not just their lives, but of the entire planet. But for the first time in a long while, Ethan felt ready to face whatever came next, with Zara by his side. Days passed in a blur of conversations and quiet moments between Ethan and Zara. With each passing hour, the weight of the situation seemed to grow heavier. Ethan had never imagined that he would be in the middle of something so big, something that could change the future of his planet. But now, with Zara by his side, it felt like he was being pulled into a much larger web of events, one that he couldn't escape, even if he wanted to. Zara had told him many things about her mission, about the forces that were watching Earth, both human and alien. But there was still so much she hadn't shared. Ethan could see the struggle in her eyes. She was torn between following her mission and staying close to him. The connection they had made was undeniable, but it wasn't just about them anymore. It was about something much bigger. One afternoon, Zara came to him with a serious look on her face. She had always been calm and composed, but today, there was a sense of urgency in her voice. Ethan could tell that something was about to change. "I need to tell you something important," Zara said, her voice steady but with a hint of concern. Ethan sat up straight, his heart beginning to race. "What's going on, Zara? What's happening?" Zara took a deep breath, as if gathering her thoughts. "I've been receiving new instructions from my superiors. They are pushing for a faster resolution. The situation on Earth is escalating. They believe that the time to make a choice is coming soon, a decision that will affect everything." Ethan felt a knot form in his stomach. "What kind of decision? What do you mean?" Zara looked at him with an intensity that made him feel like she was speaking directly to his soul. "The forces that are at work here, they are not going to wait forever. There are factions among humans and aliens, all with their own agendas. Some want to help Earth, while others want to control it. They see your planet as a resource, as something to be taken advantage of, and if the wrong people make the decisions, everything will fall apart." Ethan's mind raced. "You mean there are people who want to destroy Earth, not just destroy?" Zara replied quietly. "They want to reshape it. They want to control it for their own purposes, without caring about the consequences. But there are others who want to protect it, to help humanity find its way. The choice, Ethan, will be in the hands of those who understand what it means to be human." Ethan's heart pounded. "So, what do we do?" Zara paused, her gaze softening as she looked at him. "We don't have much time. The forces that are watching are already making their moves. We must find those who want to protect Earth and unite them. The key to saving this world lies in bringing together the right people, those who understand the value of life, of compassion, and of unity." Ethan sat back, his mind trying to absorb everything she had said. "But how do we even begin? I'm just one person. What can I do?" Zara walked over to him and placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch comforting yet firm. "You are not alone, Ethan. You have more allies than you realize. There are people who care, people who are already fighting for a better world. You have the power to bring them together. You have the power to inspire them." Ethan looked at her, uncertainty still clouding his thoughts. He had never been a leader. He had never been someone to stand up in the face of danger. But Zara was right. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about the future of the entire planet, and if he was going to make a difference, he had to find the courage to act. "What's the first step?" Ethan asked, his voice steady despite the fear that was building inside him. Zara smiled, a small but reassuring smile. "The first step is to trust yourself. The second step is to find those who will stand with you. I will help you, Ethan. We can do this together." Ethan nodded, a sense of determination starting to rise within him. He didn't know what would happen next, but he couldn't just sit back and wait. He had to do something. He had to take action. For the next few days, Ethan and Zara worked together to reach out to people they could trust. Zara used her knowledge and connections to find others who were sympathetic to their cause. They met with leaders, activists, and ordinary people who shared their concerns about the future of Earth. Slowly but surely, they began to form a small but dedicated group of individuals who were willing to fight for the planet's survival. But the road ahead was not without obstacles. As they worked to unite their allies, they began to encounter resistance. There were people who did not want change, people who were content with the way things were. Some of them were even willing to go to extreme lengths to protect their power. Zara warned Ethan that the real battle was yet to come. "The forces that oppose us are powerful," she said one night as they reviewed their progress. "But we cannot give up. We must stay focused. The future of Earth depends on the choices we make in the next few weeks." Ethan looked at Zara, his eyes filled with resolve. "We can do this. We have to." Zara nodded, her expression one of quiet strength. Yes, together, we will fight for Earth, and we will win. As they stood together, side by side, Ethan knew that the road ahead would be difficult. There would be battles, both seen and unseen. But he was ready to fight for the future of the planet, for the people he cared about, and for Zara, the alien who had shown him that even the smallest of choices could change the world.